room wearing Trump hats that don't support Donald Trump. He's like looking right at him. He's wearing a Make America Great Again hat. That was beautiful. So I think those are deliberate things, and I love it. I just love it.
All right, we're live. Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians, lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We're broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Walz land. Minneapolis and St. Paul, not Rocks and Cows territory, where he doesn't like that area. He says he's from that area, but doesn't like that area. He calls it just a bunch of rocks and cows. Did you know that about Tim Walz? Yeah, that's the VP pick for the Democrats. Joining me, as usual, Mr. Mega Jesse. How you doing there, Mega Jesse?
Doing good, yeah. We got a lot to get into. We'll be talking about the media gaslighting, about Tim Walz's stolen valor. We're going to be talking about that. It's been going around the nation that, exposing him for what his actual military record is, how he abandoned his troops. We'll be talking about how NPR was lying. We'll be talking about some false claims that Tim Walz himself has been making. We'll be talking about Tina Smith, who didn't even know that J.D. Vance, her own colleague, was a Marine veteran. We'll be talking about the National Guard disputing Walz's record, and we'll be talking about some swing state polls and whether or not the Democrats will ditch Tim Walz. We'll see what happens. I mean, crazier things have happened this year.
Three crazier things this election cycle have happened. Let's go through that list when we get to it. And then we got some really interesting thing for the post show. So if you're not a subscriber, go to Rumble, click join. You're going to want to be part of this post show. Get started on it right now. Jesse talking about a lawsuit he's doing with, can we say who?
Yeah,
Nope.
we'll say who, but we won't give any details about what it's about. Steve Simon, Secretary of State Steve Simon. I've got everything almost prepared, ready to file. So there's some major problem going on in Minnesota right now. I don't feel like publicly divulging into it right now, but for the post show, you can definitely see
if you want to
firsthand
be part of that
what
post
we're going
show,
to be doing.
Go to Rumble, click on join. If you're not watching on Rumble, go to Rumble and click on join. Join me as usual, or I guess as our newest regular, is Mr. Paul Tucci. They call him Liberty Longbeard. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing all right. A little lack of sleep lately, but I've come to you directly from Rocks and Cows country. Straight here from 10A. Didn't even have time to stop and pick up wings at Quinny's Sports Pub and Grill in Matamidi before the show, because I was just hurrying right down here from the District 10A, where we're trying to retire Rhino Ron. But because the wings are so good, I'll probably, after the show is done, shortly after, I'll head over to Matamidi to Quinny's Pub and Grill and get some wings.
Nice. Running the dials, Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing there, Dawson?
I'm doing good. I just carved through a whole rotisserie chicken, so I've got a lot of energy and I'm ready to go.
There you go. Awesome stuff. All right, before we get into the stolen valor part of Tim Walz, start out this week. This is the most interesting thing. This week starts out with the stock market crashing and Israel and Iran at the precipice of war. And we haven't even addressed it on the show this week, because that's how crazy a week we're having, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm just still a little bit in shock that Tim Walz was picked. And I understand some of the reasons the Democrats looked at him and why they wanted him. But at the same point, it's interesting to watch this thing unfold. And they must be counting on the media doing a lot of cover for them. But if you just get into the intricacies of what this asshole Tim Walz is saying, because we know this guy. We've been on his case since 2018. If you know what this guy is saying, you know this guy is so full of shit. Is it malarkey? Is that what Biden used to say? Full of malarkey? This is Tim Walz yesterday in Eau Claire. That's how you pronounce it in case you're not from the Midwest. Eau Claire, Wisconsin, the heart of Wisconsin. Great area. I was just there 2 weekends ago, by the way. So this is Tim Walz from his own mouth talking about personal freedoms. Watch this clip.
He froze in the face of COVID, and it cost people's lives. He drove the economy into the ground. And make no mistake about it, violent crime was up when Donald Trump was president. Those of you who are a little older know this. Older Republicans used to talk about freedom. These guys today, it turns out that freedom to them means government should be free to invade your exam room with your doctor. Now, look, we're pretty neighborly with Wisconsin. We get our friendly battles, but in Minnesota, just like in Wisconsin, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. Even if we wouldn't make the same choices for ourselves, because we know there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. Mind your own damn business. I don't need you telling me about our health care. I don't need you telling us who we love. And I sure the hell don't need you telling us what books we're going to read.
Yeah, okay, so where do we even start? I wanted to bring this video up before we get into Stolen Valor. By the way, we're going to have Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrends joining us. He said he is. Is he already in?
Looks to me like he is. And
Okay, so let me cover this real quick, and then we're going to bring the guy that actually replaced him, and then we'll get to the bottom of the Stolen Valor. Okay.
Oh, maybe not.
A lot of what we're going to talk about today is almost objective facts. A lot of politics is a gray area. It's subjective and stuff like that. We're going to talk about some objective things. For this asshat to talk about protecting freedoms, he's the greatest abuser of freedoms in modern-day Minnesota history. We covered this on the show on Tuesday. The guy literally threw a grandma in jail for serving a cup of coffee where not a single case of COVID was even traced to the bistro she was running. This guy talks about keeping government out of the exam room. He had a vaccine mandate for state employees. And had it not been for the good people at Action for Liberty ending this guy's emergency powers, he might have instituted his own Joe Biden-style vaccine mandates in the fall of 2021. This guy's talking about freedoms. He's just talking about, people need to make their own personal health decisions. Where the hell was he during COVID?
Right, and to say mind your own business, for him to be saying mind your own damn business, for him to be saying that when he was the one who mandated the vaccine, he was the one who has been invading people's medical rooms. He's the one who is trying to control people's medical decisions. And look at him. Does he look like an emblem of health? Does he look like the kind of guy who we should be taking health advice from? Probably not. So Tim Walz, he has to try to mask things. He has to try to convince people he's one thing when he's the exact opposite. He's a tyrant. He's not for freedom. And besides that, that's the only time they want to talk about freedom is abortion. But as soon as it comes to the vaccines, completely different story.
What do we got in the comment section here, Tucci?
We got Tucker in 91. I personally think she should have picked Mark Kelly. And Based MN says the Democrats only run on a reproductive rights platform. Hate MN says don't. Oh, that one's gone. Hate MN. Don't forget he had the snitch phone line during COVID.
See the napkin Nate's in the comments and the lovely T-Wall. Mask and vaccines, asshole. Exactly. It's just, this guy says it, and it's almost as if people, I'm almost at a point where if people are going to vote for this ticket, you're just idiotic in that sense. Like, if a Republican was spilling this bullshit, we'd call it out on the show. Who's calling this stuff out on the left? Anyone? Is anyone calling this out? Mask
Barely
mandates.
anyone.
By the way, the mask mandates went against state statute. There literally is a state statute in Minnesota. I can't remember. I used to know the statute. You probably know it off the top of your head.
609.735.
That sounds right. 609.735. Minnesota statute 609.735. You cannot wear a mask covering. There's just two exceptions. One is for like a medical treatment, and number two is for like Halloween, essentially.
Yep.
It's like if you're wearing a costume. Otherwise, you can't wear a face covering in public.
That seems like something you guys would really dislike, wouldn't it?
I am not necessarily arguing that it's a good thing to have that.
Well,
Granted, although I do understand the fact that if you were to go into a bank wearing something, it seems
Obviously,
like
the reason that the legislature, previous legislature passed this, which, by the way, obviously there's 134 House members, 67 senators, so 201 legislators plus a governor, and they were probably Democrats that did it as well, passed this law thinking we don't want someone running into a bank with a ski mask and a gun because then, like, you can rob banks, you can rob liquor stores, you can rob whatever you want and rape and kill and, and rob and never be, identified, right? So that's the reason the legislature did it. You could make that argument, as Dawson, I think, maybe is making the point that we should allow people to wear ski masks in the banks and liquor stores and whatever. But the point is, 201 people plus the governor, 202 people created this law, and they decided all these people who were elected by the 6 million people in Minnesota. We elected legislators. Those legislators made a law, and then one person, Tim Walz, said, "Well, I don't like the law that our previous governor and 201 legislators wrote into law as per our Constitution. I'm going to say that law doesn't count, and you're required to do the opposite."
Right.
That is what the problem is.
Yeah, it's not even that he's not enforcing the law. It's the fact, because I agree with you, Dawson, I wouldn't be pro that law, right? But the fact is, I'm definitely not pro enforcing people to wear a mask covering in public.
I mean, that's literally fascism. That's literally dictatorship. So people are like, "Oh, Republicans are fascists."
Wait, that's not democracy?
This guy,
When are they saving democracy? I thought they were saving democracy.
6 million people elect a legislature, and then 201 legislators make a law, and one guy says, "Screw all of you, we're doing it my way," and I'm going to say that you do the opposite.
Right.
Democracy.
All right, I want to set the table here just to show you this bozo, how much of a liar he is. So let's get into his military record. We got Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behrends on Zoom on the line right now. Can you hear me, Tom?
You bet. Got me.
I do. Do we have video for Thomas?
Yep.
Well, show his beautiful old Sergeant Major face. There it is. Look at that. You haven't aged a day since the last time I saw you.
Thank you. I look like I'm 16.
I was telling people, so for people that don't know, I don't talk about too much on this show, but I was in the Army 12 years total, 4 years enlisted, 8 years as an officer. I didn't retire, by the way. They say after 12 years you quit. So I don't have the prestige of going around saying I'm retired like Thomas Behrends, but I left as a captain. Captains and sergeant majors have a unique relationship, It's like you guys all hate the butter bar lieutenants because they don't know shit and they're in charge of your soldiers. And then, of course, the higher up officers, they're just political. Who really likes those guys? Politicians, probably. So captains, in the field grades, we get along very well as sergeant majors. So it's always been a pleasure. I mean, I interviewed you the first time, I think, in 2018 to get your story out there. And then us and I think a couple other media outlets interviewed you again in 2022, and I just republished that interview from 2022. So if people really want like a long context of what we're going to talk about today, I would highly recommend you go check that out. It's called The Story of Tim Walz, Abandoning His Troops and Dodging Iraq Deployments. So Thomas, you retired as a command sergeant major with the Minnesota Army National Guard following a deployment to Iraq with the 1st Brigade. Do I have that correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay. And how many total years were you in the military?
29 and a half.
And for people that don't understand, in the enlisted ranks, the top rank, which is a pay grade at E9, is a sergeant major. And a command sergeant major means you're commanding troops, or you're part of a command structure of troops. In the case of Thomas Behrends, a battalion level for field artillery. So the reason we have you on the show, and we're going to cover the media, and this is so interesting to me, Thomas, we could go all day long and talk to the Minnesota Army National Guard, the Department Army, try to read through the paperwork of Tim Walz's career, come to our own conclusions as NPR did, which we're going to read that. But you know what? When it really comes down to how did Tim Walz's career end, there's one person that has the most intimate knowledge of that, and that's you. And the reason being is he retired, and what happened to you?
I got the call.
You replaced him.
Sam.
So let's cut to the chase. Did Tim Walz dodge a deployment?
Absolutely. If you look at March of 2005, he, the whole brigade got the warning order, prepare to go to war, get your will together, tell your family, tell your employer, get firewood cut, whatever. We're gonna be going to war in Iraq. And 2 months later, after thinking about it a little bit, he decided that there's no way in hell I'm gonna do it. And he said, "Screw you, and I'm abandoning you. I'm gonna desert." It's basically what I looked at. I found that. I thought about it the other day. I was like, he's no different than what Bergdahl or whatever the hell his name was in Afghanistan. He walked off into the sunset, never to come back.
Right. I know in this case, didn't even deploy and activate with his unit. And he's a senior leader. I can't stress this enough. You got Doug Julien, the brigade sergeant major, command sergeant major. So that's the brigade. That's the whole size unit that's going over. And by the way, this is a historic deployment, 22 months overseas, the longest of any modern day combat force. Good old Minnesota Army National Guard, the Red Bulls. And under a brigade, you have battalions, which are led by a lieutenant colonel and a command sergeant major as well. It's interesting in terms of enlisted. Sergeant majors start at the battalion level, and then they stay that way all the way up to the whole army, actually. So he's the next guy. I mean, he's the same rank as Julien, but he's the next guy below that. So he's the second highest enlisted guy in the whole deployment. That's a senior leader position, and he knows he's going. Now, here's the thing that's interesting, and I've talked a lot about you in the last 24 hours to people. So I served. I joined the Minnesota Army National Guard. I came into the Minnesota Army National Guard upon getting commissioned in May of 2005. And I was an infantry guy before that. I hadn't gone to IOBC. Do you know how badly I wanted to be on that deployment? I mean, obviously, a young infantry lieutenant, all we want to do is kick down doors. And to the 135, which I was with, Alpha Company, basically coughed up 2 platoons. And I remember Pletz and Wright were the 2 platoon leaders. And Jeff and I, who showed up at the same time, clearly would have wanted to go on that. No chance. We didn't even go to IOBC yet, which I think I went to in September and graduated in February or January, whatever that was, the following year. Totally missed that deployment. But I knew showing up in May that was happening. So this bullshit that we're hearing from them, that Walz didn't know about this, or he didn't have orders, right? Because, officially you don't have your MOB orders until, what is that, probably July. They're playing a little game with us, or maybe they just are too dumb to understand it. Maybe they could ask Thomas Behrends or anyone else that was on that deployment, and they could validate the fact that this guy dodged the deployment. So here we are. This is NPR news story. Dawson, pull this up. They start with this little puff piece. In 1981, Tim Walz and his father traveled the nearest Army National Guard enlistment officer to his hometown in Nebraska. They want to make it sound so folksy. This is obviously what the media is trying to do, make him sound this folksy guy, because he throws on a flannel and puts on a camel hat. Which, by the way, I saw someone saying that a camel hat's got like a insignia of a special operations unit, which people are saying that's stolen valor too. Just like a pattern here, Thomas. It's weird. So let's get past a little puff piece in this nice little feel-good story, and then it gets into how Harris called him a patriot in Philadelphia at the first rally two held together. To his fellow veterans, she says, Kamala, he is Sergeant Major Walz, Harris said as the crowd cheered. You're a veteran. What do you think about that statement?
It's just amazing that he allows people to call him that. I mean, anybody with any integrity in the military would say, I am not that. I am a retired master sergeant. I failed the course. I didn't do the course. I didn't do my requirements of the conditional promotion, and he just allows it to happen. This has been going on for years. Like I said, yes, damn near 2 decades, where he's just been lying. He's done this so long. I think he's lied so long, and I think he believes the lie, and he just loves hearing that. I think, and it's like everybody out there that accomplished the course and did the 2 years after the course was done and did their duty and literally gave back to the Army what the Army invested in them, the taxpayers' money. That's the saddest part about it, is there's a hell of a lot of money that gets invested in some dumb farmer like me to be a CSM, or even a smart person like him that supposedly, is educated. Well, there's still a lot of military training that goes into them. Right. And they want 2 years of your time afterwards, after you graduate, to get that out of there. And this guy runs around and acts like he is one of them, and he is not. That's the sad part about it. It's like, no, you're not, buddy. You are not one. You're not retired. That title, when that title is told to him, and you'd think there'd be a lightning bolt would just come down and strike. Because it's just absolutely sad that everybody that went through the course and has got killed in combat or wounded or is wounded to this day psychologically or whatever, or if they never even did deploy, but they still accomplished the course, they all are bona fide sergeant majors or command sergeant majors, and they deserve to be able to say That's who they are. This clown using it, it's all for political purposes because he knows it's a prestigious rank and he wants to have that feather in his hat. And I guess the feather is getting pulled out now. It's just sad.
And it's not just that you. There's other sergeants major that are stating the same thing, which, you know, leave it to you guys to protect that prestige of the rank, which is the highest achievement in the enlisted ranks. But it's really important to understand that he left the military as a command sergeant major, because that's going to come into play here. It's going to be a very important detail. So let's continue on with what NPR writes. By the way, did NPR bother to reach out to you at all? This is
absolutely not. I honestly wonder if NPR, if Mr. Walz doesn't write the articles for him, then they review it and then maybe edit it if there's some spelling problems or something. But I mean, it's never vetted out there to anybody else. It's just a big puff piece, and it artfully omits the truth most of the time. And it's like you said about the MOB order, the alert order. I mean, CNN had it on there that the alert order was in July, and he retired 2 months before that. Well, yeah, that's true. That was the alert order, but the military has lots of orders. And the original order, like you said, came out. You know, you all knew it. It came out 2 months before that. Everybody knew what the hell was going on, and he did too.
And he's a senior leader. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm a brand new butter bar lieutenant showing up in Alpha Company to the 135, which isn't even in the 1st Brigade. We're just coughing up a couple platoons to join, and I know about it. Like, he knew about it. He knew what was going on. By the way, there's I think it was Alpha News maybe uncovered a press release from 2006 where he even admitted that they knew that was coming, and he even had the audacity to say, "When the nation calls, you answer." My God, this guy. Okay. All right, so NPR, and this is Peter Cox. So he goes on to say, Minnesota members of the National Guard trained to fight in wars and to respond to national security threats. They also called up for state emergencies. The majority of the Guard members have full civilian jobs and serve part-time in the Guard. Walz served in Nebraska, Texas, and Arkansas before moving to Minnesota in 1996. He was in the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery, based in New Ulm. He specialized in heavy artillery. You're going to like this, okay? This is going to be funny. This is funny to you guys like you and me. And had ribbons for proficiency in sharpshooting and hand grenades. Like, you know, everyone. What is it? How does it's the Marksman Award, sharpshooter, and expert? Like, everyone has it, basically. So, did he have a sharpshooter award? Was that 30 out of 40 on the M4 range? That's obviously doesn't know anything about the military. According to military records, NPR News obtained through an open records request. During his service, he suffered hearing damage due to heavy artillery use. He later had surgery to address that. By the way, pretty much all of us, you know, if there's anything that
Is that why they threw the DUI out from his hearing damage?
There you go. His training missions, including one near the Arctic Circle in northern Norway. So he must have done the Norway exchange or the Norwegian exchange. By the way, I'd say of my whole time in the military, that's probably my biggest regret, not doing that. Did you ever do that one, Thomas?
Yeah, I was over that in '83. The one he was on there was actually a NATO mission that one of the 125 had, where we went up and we kind of guarded the border with Russia up on the way far north end of Norway.
Oh, okay.
So it was actually an artillery. It wasn't the exchange. He might have went on that too, but this would have been a different thing.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. We got an exchange program where we do like winter training with Norwegian military. In 2003, he was deployed to Italy for 9 months, providing support for the war in Afghanistan. You say it was actually Iraq, right?
Right. Yep.
But neither way, he was in Italy, not a combat zone. Quote, our responsibility was to provide support at these bases in the early parts of the war in 2003, where these troops in the active force went forward into the war zone, Walz said. And we went in and provided base security, provided training on the backside because the regular force was deployed downrange. On May 15, 2005, this is where it gets good, Walz retired from the Guard. His separation record says he did so honorably. Well, they act like there was... There's other than honorable conditions and dishonorable. Those are the other two options. No one's disputing that, but they're making it sound like, oh, he did it so honorably. Very unhonorably the way it all went down, but let's get into it. Later that year, his battalion was deployed for the Iraq War. Later that year, right? Okay. The 1125 Field Artillery received an alert order for mobilization to Iraq on July 14, 2005. The official Department of Army mobilization order was received on August 14, 2005, and the unit mobilized on October 12th, said Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Rossman, Minnesota National Guard's Director of Operations. At the time of his retirement, Walz was 41 and wanted to run for Congress. He was elected to the 1st District congressional seat the following year. They go on to talk about how this was a contention in the election cycle in 2012.
It's interesting that they say that Walz wanted to run for Congress because Walz always says that he never dreamed of running for office, that he never dreamed of being a politician until later on. So it's interesting that, you know, they're tying that into this.
So this is
And supposedly he filed for election in January or February of 05 already.
That's correct.
That came out on CNN here yesterday.
All right, this is from Walz. Quote, I wouldn't put myself as a hero, but 24 years of service commendations, rising to the rank that your listeners who are in the military know you don't get to bluff your way to that, which I think he did bluff his way to that. You earned that, and I am certainly proud of that, he said, end quote. All right, and then they went on to write, he weighed that decision to run for Congress very, very heavily. And we're going to bring up Vance. So this is the way they're kind of phrasing this, that he had served honorably, left before the orders. So I think the timeline's really important here. And you just established he knew in May, we all knew, I knew as a new guy joining, not even that brigade, but a brigade that was coughing up platoons to go join that they were deploying. So he leaves as a senior enlisted guy, and you're basically next in line. Tell people that story in case they haven't heard us talk about this. You get the call.
Right. I was a sergeant major at Barty at the time, Division Artillery, working in operations up there, and you know, the rumor came out, you know, it spread across the whole damn state, I think, that a command sergeant major had just quit. And then you know, we know who it was, and I was 13 Bravo, and I was like, well, you know, more than likely I'm going to get the call because it's an artillery battalion, and I'm out there. I'm already an E9. I'm probably going to get called. The state CSM and the division CSM, they talked to me, and the colonel of the battalion called me and asked if I'd go, and I said, well, I need to, you know, let my family know, and my brother, I farm with, and you know, it's a big decision to make. I had to volunteer to do it because I wasn't even in the brigade. So, you know, that's the gist of it. I was like, you know, who the hell does that? I couldn't believe it that I had the opportunity to be with my soldiers and be with my men and women out there and train and go to war with them and hopefully try to make Iraq a better country and to protect people back here so those people don't come over here and do the shit they did on 911. That's the whole gist of the thing.
Thomas, can we go back to this real quick? You said he retires, and they were talking about around the state. So, in other words, very unprecedented? Kind of describe that for us.
Well, yeah, it's just absolutely unbelievable that somebody at that rank would hang it up in the time frame that he did. I mean, if we would have got back from England and as a first sergeant, he said, well, I've got over 20 years in. I realize if I'm in the military, I'm going to probably deploy again, and I'm gonna retire. That happened a lot. A lot of people decided that, you know, I was in. I did a deployment. I'm gonna get out. There's other people that didn't even do a deployment, and they said, I got 20 years, and I'm gonna hang it up. I got a good job at home. My family, you know, was young, or I have a lot of kids, or whatever excuse they had. There's not even an excuse. There's a lot of reasons and good ones to do that. And a lot of people did retire honorably in those time frames. But if you're in position and you're a senior NCO and your unit gets the call and you quit at that time, that is a whole nother level of traitorism and cowardism and deserting your unit, your country, and your people. It's just absolutely horrible.
Okay, so can we all agree then that the facts are Tim Walz retired as a master sergeant? Okay, can we all agree on that? And then can we agree on, so when they go, well, the veterans would call him a sergeant major. Well, he is a master sergeant. That's what he retired on. And can we agree on he never went to war. He never went to Iraq. He never went to Afghanistan. At best, he was in Italy to support Operation Enduring Freedom, but essentially he never actually stepped foot on a war zone. Never in a never got hazardous duty pay, imminent danger pay. He never deployed overseas, as we called it, the sandbox. Can we all agree on that?
That's 100% correct. I mean, my DD-214 from Europe is in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. I mean, that's what we did. We were supporting, it was a USAFE mission, United States Air Force Europe, and we fell on the bases to more or less protect the perimeters that were pretty porous after 9/11. I mean, they had the airfields and everything all covered, but the hospitals and the commissary and the schools and everything was wide open for the general European public to just drive in if they wanted to, and they had to they literally made a bigger perimeter around the base to put all of the United States airmen and soldier, everybody that was on those bases, to protect them.
And I got activated down on the U.S.-Mexican border. I would never say I was in a war zone because of the U.S.-Mexican border, although you could make the argument on the Mexican side, it's pretty much a war zone these days. It's terrible. I certainly was in Germany. I would never say that was a war zone. Even, I think my orders for Kosovo was Operation Enduring Freedom. I wouldn't even make the argument I was at war because of that. I would say I was at war because of Iraq. I'm assuming you the same, Thomas, because Iraq was a war. So let's play this. This is from the official Twitter account of the Kamala Harris campaign, now the Harris Walz campaign. This is a video. I can't believe we saw this video from another source, and we were trying to validate its authenticity because we're like, is this like AI or something like that? We couldn't. And then we find out the Kamala Harris campaign's literally promoting this. I hope, Thomas, you can hear it. If you can, I will rephrase what they said. It's a 31-second clip. Go ahead and play this.
I saw it yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army, and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
And it literally says in the tweet, we can make sure that these weapons of war that I carried in war are only carried in war. Sorry, I had to move over to see the screen. That's a freaking lie, right? He was never in war.
And I don't see how the benefits of lying about his title is going to gain any votes. For the most, what I see is it's not worth the lie. I don't understand why he would continue to do this unless him and Kamala are just habitual liars who can't even keep their own life straight.
Well, did he lie about his title? Now I'm confused.
So about being in war.
Oh, okay.
Pretend like you're with us, Dawson. You're doing a good job switching on the cameras, though. Yeah. Very good job on there. Actually, you know what? There is another clip from the same thing where he does lie about the rank. The rank, I see the little bit of gray area because he was a command sergeant major who abruptly ended his career, as you heard from Thomas Behrends, so that he could dodge a deployment to Iraq. But the fact is, he never went to war. You heard it from his own mouth, the weapons I carried in war. What the hell is he talking about, Thomas?
Well, that's what that really hit the airwaves yesterday. I mean, I got Vietnam veteran that had a meme out there where, Walz is sitting there saying, I was a command sergeant major, and the guy was like, no, you're not. And he's like, well, I carried my weapons in war. And he's like, no, you didn't. And then he was like, well, it'd be really cool if I would have. And then he was like, well, screw off.
Yeah.
And it's literally just
that's
and
the
for him
Chris
to even
Farley
say
meme,
that.
right?
For him to even say that the anything we have on the streets as a weapon of war is just absolute lie also, because an M4 or an M16 is not what we can buy on the streets in the country. I mean, it's just sad that somebody that was in the military is even trying to push gun control like that, because they aren't. Yeah, they're similar, but it's like having, like you said yesterday, an M9 or a 45 caliber pistol. I mean, those are weapons of war. I mean,
I guess.
we need to ban all them too. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous what he said there, and it reminded me of the joke of the French soldier rifle, where basically, here's Tim Walz's military rifle, his war rifle, and never fired, dropped once.
Right.
And that's, that's his tactic. His technique is to stop and turn around and run the other way. And that's literally, it's just sad that, it's just lie after lie with this guy. I mean, he was in war. I mean, think of somebody, and, even when he went to D-Day this summer, I was just appalled. I mean, how can he even talk to people that actually were there when he knew he quit and did not go to war? I mean, if he'd have been in the 34th Division in World War II, would he have done the same damn thing?
Right.
I'm going to just go back and sit wherever, and then you guys crawl up the beach and get the shit shot out of you in Italy, and then I'm going to claim your rank when it's all over with too. I just can't believe it.
Well, I mean, he should know the sharpshooter, since he's such a sharpshooter, that he should know that that's not the same weapon of war. But that's an interesting point. Listen, I don't know where you are, and I don't want to get into your thoughts on the Iraq War. I personally think it was a mistake. I think it was an error on our nation, but I think a lot of us served honorably and did what we believed was correct, and we answered the call. But he's trying to have it both ways, where he doesn't actually have to go, but then proclaim and act like he was at war, and that's stolen valor. Is it not stolen valor?
It is. It's 100%. If you look at taking something that you didn't earn and trying to use that as for people to look at you, whether you're wearing a big Class A uniform or dressed blues you got salad all over them, and you got 10 service stripes that show that you were in combat for 5 years, and different things like that. That's just against the dang morals and the rules out there. I mean, I think they did find out that stolen valor is kind of a freedom of speech thing to a certain point for somebody that's somebody wants to be a flake and wear a Air Force uniform and enter the Army. I think they probably can. It's not right, but we do have freedoms in this country. But to do that on a stage where you want to be the leader of somebody, or in a political, literally one heartbeat away from the president of the United States, and you're lying about what your rank was and lying that you carried a weapon of war, what the hell else you lying about? I mean,
right.
And I think we're going to find that out here in the coming days, because there's other things that are just, artfully omitted by him that are, they're on my resume, but I put this in there, but not that, and nobody will find it because I'm the smartest man in the world and everybody else is unintelligent. Well, you're going to find that out, Mr. Walz, here in a few days, that things that happened in the past that you tried to bury aren't, they're going to come out.
Right. Dustin, pull up A3. I want to bring up my friend Adam Gilbertson's post. Adam was in the military. I actually don't know how long. I'm guessing he probably did like me, got out before retirement, because I don't think Adam's much older than I am.
You're saying A3. I'm not seeing a.
Do you not see A3 line?
It looks like it's making me
line 11. Line 11. It's a Facebook post.
I gotta sign in.
Adam, who now lives in Montana. I served in the same brigade that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was supposed to deploy with in 2005. Command Sergeant Major Julien, who I know, and obviously Thomas Behrends knows, was a brigade command sergeant major during that deployment. He speaks pretty clearly in this article. This is an article he's referencing in New York Post. As a company commander in a sister battalion, we knew that the brigade was going to deploy in March of 2005, not May, as Tim Walz claimed this week. This deployment was and still is the longest and largest deployment in the Minnesota National Guard since World War II. Many Minnesota soldiers were killed and wounded during that deployment. Yes, and we know that, right? John Kriesel, former legislator, lost his legs in that deployment. Nicholas Turcotte, who I knew, because once again, I had been briefly, I'm pretty new to Minnesota National Guard at that point, but I knew Nicholas Turcotte died over there and many other soldiers. I know if my battalion...
Kriesel was on social media too, taking Walz to task about this. Did you see that?
Oh, I bet he was.
He definitely was.
Yeah, I bet he was.
And he is not, that guy's not a partisan hack either. I mean, he was, I don't know, he was kind of a wild card in there. in the legislature, but
This is what I like about what Adam writes, and this is just a great point. I know if my battalion command sergeant major had done this to the soldiers of my unit, I would never have spoken to him again. I just, and here's the other thing is, when I watch the fake news media, like, just spewing this propaganda and, like, trying to pretend like this record is squeaky clean, I'm like, well, have you talked to Thomas Behrends or have you talked to Doug Julien, right? I mean, these are people that know what the hell's going on. Have you talked to soldiers just in general that were part of this deployment or part of the same, Minnesota Army National Guard? You don't think highly of guys that do something like this. It's a stain. No way around that. It's a stain to do something like that. What's your reaction to what Adam wrote here?
I would say the same thing. It's a career ender in many different occupations, and especially it should be in politics, because if you aren't going to go to war for your country and for your soldiers, what are you going to do in a political position? And I think it's the bottom line out of this whole thing, and it shows his lack of leadership all the way back to when he was in the military, because when the going got tough, he decided, I'm going to quit and go do something different. And from that point, it moves into George Floyd riots, basically just cowering in his bunker because he didn't know what the hell to do for days, letting the city burn down. And then, basically get to the point where, if you need to do something, he had the mayor, a very, very liberal left mayor that asked for the guard, and he, you didn't call me and you didn't word it correctly, so I'm not going to do whatever. You didn't ask for it right. It's like there is, the guard was on standby, ready to roll.
Right.
I'm not going to do it because they're 19-year-old cooks, and what are they going to do? They'll probably just go there and beat their frying pans or whatever at them. It's just ridiculous that he did that. After being in the guards for 24 years and then not knowing the capabilities we had. The MPs would have been there in a heartbeat. They could have been there in a split second. And they weren't even called first. It should have been MPs first, and then get people from outstate in. And we'd have had that shit shut down before he could have turned around and ran, he does all the rest of his career. But that's the sad thing, is his military backstabbing that he did with everybody and getting out carries on into what he's done in politics. That's just absolutely sad. And the sad thing is then we have him as potential VP of the United States. It's just unbelievable.
I want to pull this up. This is Senator Tina Smith. This is the A4 Dawson. This is a segment on, is this CNN? I think this is on CNN. CNN even had to correct her because, they're trying to make this military thing a deal. And J.D. Vance actually did deploy to Iraq. He actually was in the U.S. Marine Corps. And they're trying to pin J.D. Vance as like some privileged Ivy Leaguer, which it's like, isn't he very well known? I'm sorry. Did I?
I'm not sure what's going up. It might have been deleted. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I just I just refreshed it there. Just take that.
We're talking about privileged Ivy Leaguers and stolen valor. Are we talking about Joe Tarab now, or?
No, they're acting like he's like this privileged guy because he went to Yale, and it's like, I generally am against the Ivy League people, but not the ones that like came from nothing, made something of himself, and joined the Marine Corps out of high school and deployed to Iraq and worked hard and then got into an Ivy League. I kind of actually admire that. And Tim Walz is going around with his stupid T-shirt and baseball cap, acting like he's just your humble servant who, shucks, I come from Nebraska. By the way, it's interesting. Why did you leave Nebraska so abruptly there, Tim Walz?
And was Ron Creasy involved? They're both from Nebraska. They're both liberals.
Oh, you're onto something, Tushy. Dawson, I posted, this is from the Post Millennial. This is with Jim Acosta. I reposted it here on A4. There we go. Let's scroll down there. There's a.
And was Ron Creasy involved in that article that Mort posted this morning?
You've such insider baseball there. Jeez. All right, let's click on that right there, that tweet, that video on the tweet.
Well, here is Tim Walz, who enlisted when he was 17 years old. He served in the National Guard for 24 years, and I'm not aware of any military service that J.D. Vance has ever served. So let's just make the comparison there. And what happened in the tragedy of the killing of George Floyd and then the unrest. Yeah, okay, pardon me for that.
And I don't know if you can hear that, Thomas. So our senator, our junior senator from Minnesota, literally says, Tim Walz served honorably 24 years, and I don't know if J.D. Vance is even ever served. And CNN waits about, I don't know, good 5 seconds ago, well, he was in the Marines.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I misspoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that yesterday. There was no audio on my end here to hear it, but yeah, I seen it too, and it's just amazing how they try to spin this thing. I mean, she obviously is clueless. I mean, how can you not know that J.D. Vance is a Marine? I mean, it's something to be damn proud of. I mean, he served his country. He was in Iraq. You know, like you said, his story is very, very much true American. You know, he got to, you know, like you said, he got in an Ivy League by having potential and working his butt off to get there. I mean, it ain't like it was handed to him. I mean, it's a success story. And for them to try to belittle that, and then you got, oh, shucks, I'm from Nebraska. I'm wearing my red and black flannel, and I act like I'm a small town guy. I mean, his policies are so far from small town that it's just absolutely amazing that, you know, that he can think that he even is that anymore. It's just disgusting to listen to that rhetoric.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate joining us. I do really encourage people to go back and watch the republishing of our interviews. We sat down for an hour, really good times, and appreciate everything you're saying. And I know you're busy. I know you said you got the New York Times and the Washington Post calling you, so keep telling people the truth. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you. And then, you know, I was holding my breath, but this morning I got an email from CNN. So.
Oh my gosh! Come on, that's fake news.
Honestly.
CNN calling you too, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to practice up my talking points for that. But
no,
the one
just be
thing,
yourself.
a fellow first sergeant from up north posted this, and he's, you know, up in the blue zone basically. But, you know, he said basically anybody that's in position, especially at a senior rank, you know, needs to be prepared to go. And if you're not, then you should not even be in there.
Right.
And that's where Tim Walz literally, he was in, and he should have, you know, when you're in, you should expect that the call's going to come. And when a call comes, you need to pack your damn bags and go. And he says right there, if you question yourself on those beliefs, then you should not accept or have accepted that position. And that's exactly what should have happened in the fall of 04. I mean, we're in war, and when the position was, you know, offered to Tim Walz to be acting command sergeant major, he should have said, I am not going to do it because I need to quit. Mm-hmm. Because I might not want to go if I have to go to the wrong door or whatever the hell's reason is. But that's the bottom line right there. I mean, after 911, if you're in, you're probably going to go. That's just the bottom line.
I certainly knew that. Right, I got commissioned in 05. Actually, I joined ROTC from enlisted soldier post 9/11, realizing I got to step this thing up. I got to do something about it. I really believed in it. You know, hindsight, I think I was an idiotic young guy. We all learn, but you know, at the end of the day, guys like us stood up, answered the call. So
exactly,
and then we can go around and say we're war veterans. So it really means something to us when you watch some asshat politician, you know, steal Valor and act like he was in war, and then to do that to try to take away my right to keep and bear arms.
Oh shit!
We got a Rumble rant here.
All right, Thomas Behrends, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll keep in contact.
Very well. Have a good day.
All right. Go ahead and read that Rumble rant.
Tucker91 says, I would have given an arm and a leg to have served and been deployed. Walz is a giant pussy.
I know. I was thinking about this because my enlisted, when I was enlisted.
Wait, did that get? I don't know. It might have turned away from my mic. Walz is a giant pussy. I just wanted to make sure that he paid $5. I wanted to make sure it got through.
My enlisted unit deployed in 04, and it sucked for me because I was already a cadet contracted with ROTC, and so I didn't get to go over there with them. That was tough, because that's the guys that although obviously I'm not dodging it. I'm upping my ante, right? Extended another 8 years essentially by joining ROTC and becoming an officer. I knew another guy who joined the military, joined that unit, who was all on board with the mission and everything, and he went down to basic training, found out he had asthma, and the Army couldn't use him. So it killed him that he couldn't be part of that. There's a brotherhood, and Tim Walz, I mean, that's really an unforgivable thing. And then to come back and say, "Oh, I was at war," and then use that to take away weapons. This episode's brought to you by Warren Wessel, Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or if you're trying to sell your home, you got to give my good friend Warren Wessel a call. Not just a good friend, my realtor also sings in my church choir. Isn't that great? What a record for this guy. Sells the hell out of homes, by the way. Call Warren at 612-419-7453. If you're selling a home, if you're buying a home, try to finance that through the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company. Their meme game is top notch. Their Liberty credentials, top notch, but they also are a great mortgage financing company. Go to John Galt Mortgage Company, johngaltmortgage.com. johngaltmortgage.com. Also, it's brought to you by Yes Solutions. Your solutions to any shipping needs, whether that's one pallet or multiple truckloads. Give Kyle a call. It's on the other side. Call Kyle at 651-797-2451. I'm reading off the screen. I couldn't even see it. I had a camera in the way. That's the Patriot Caller Nelson's Company, also brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry. What do you got here? Brad Ganser says something?
Brad Ganser says, I do not see any wings today. Well, speaking of our sponsors, I came directly from Rocks and Cows country. I don't know if you caught this earlier, Brad, but I was up in 10A where Rhino Ron Krisha is facing a significant challenge from Diane Webb Skillings, and I came right out of Rocks and Cows country to be on the show today. So I didn't have time to stop by Quinny's Sports Pub and Grill in Montemita to pick up some delicious wings. But Brad, if you are free after the show today, we could go over to Quinny's Sports Pub and Grill in Montemita and grab some wings. So let me know if you're interested.
There you go. I love it. Let's discuss here, and then I want to go to the after show. Is going to be really interesting. If you're not a member, join us. It helps support the show. But Jesse's going to talk about his lawsuit against Secretary of State Steve Simon. Only for our premium subscribers, go to Rumble and click on join, and we'll probably get some insider information from you.
I have a short follow-up to the last after show I was on.
Oh, good.
Also. And then,
some juicy gossip makes them better.
A little bit more inside information as well about Rocks and Cows country.
All right. We're all political operatives here. You guys are a lot more active than I am these days. Let me ask this question, because this was in one of the threads. The stolen valor thing seems to be catching. Okay, a lot of media, like Thomas Behrends, is like a lot of people are asking me about this stuff. I've been on the phone with media all over the country. I mean, the Minnesota media didn't want to talk about it when he was running for governor, but this matters to a lot of people. This doesn't seem to go well for Tim Walz. It's very easy for us to dispute the way the media is spinning this thing. I forgot to even bring up that graphic. I was going to bring up the graphic and get his thoughts on that. So here's my question. Is it in the realm of possibility that the Democrats would actually ditch Tim Walz on this ticket?
No, I don't think so. I just don't think they have the time to do it. So
I don't think they have the time to do it this year. Now, the thing is, if they have Walz on this ticket and he gets utterly destroyed by the national media, since the Minnesota media, as you said, has given him a pass and covered for him. Now, if they lose to Trump, now in 2 years, after Walz has been thoroughly exposed, will he run for another term or will he hang it up?
Good question. There was this somebody that dug into Tim Walz's financials, because when you run on a ticket, you got to have financial disclosure. And apparently he has no assets to report real estate or securities.
We've known that. We know that he has no real estate.
We
right?
knew that he sold his home, so he's on
But
government.
isn't he worth like 400 mil or something?
No, that's fake news.
Oh, that's fake news?
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you know that? You know the other fake news? Oh my God, the internet's crazy.
Well,
Okay,
that's
so
what
you
I was
guys
saying.
know
I
about
was
this.
wondering if
Do you know
Ryan
about the
O'Ron had
J.D.
anything
Vance?
to do with that, that article.
Yeah, do you know the J.D. Vance couch thing? Have you guys heard this?
Yeah.
You know about it?
Yeah.
Some internet troll created a fake story that J.D. Vance had, you know what, with a couch.
Yep.
Totally fake news. By the way, Tim Walz references it in the Philadelphia thing, talking about if J.D. Vance gets off the couch, and he has like a little comedic pause. So he's even, proliferating the fake news story. So it seems like the right attacked back against the left and made this story up that Walz drank horse
semen.
Yeah, you said it. There you go, horse semen. I'm trying to keep this PG-rated show the best I can. I mean, like, this is the election cycle. Now, getting back to this, I'm not saying I buy into it, but if Tim Walz is too much of a liability, because it initially was praised by a lot of people in the media, and a lot of the left was like, yes, Tim Walz. But for at least 24, 36 hours, there have been legit questions about his military service, and that seems to not be going well for him, right? You don't want to see something like that where it's being questioned. And then for like the big goofs like Tina Smith going, I don't even think J.D. Vance served in the military. So it doesn't seem to go well. If he becomes too much of a deal and the Democrats will have win, is there a chance that they stop this madness and actually ditch Tim Walz? Jesse,
I'm also a no.
You're a no?
There's no way. I mean, the Democrats were dumb enough to run Biden and Kamala in 2020. Do we think they're not dumb enough to run Kamala Walz? Of course they are. They ran John Kerry. They've run liars throughout their history. It doesn't surprise me that they've got a new liar in the position now. So no, I think that's exactly what the Democrats are all about. They don't have an honest politician to choose from anyway. So whoever they were going to choose was just going to be exposed as a liar and a fraud.
Yeah.
Walz is definitely a globalist with his connections to China and his many years in the Congress. So, I mean, this is what they need on their ticket, right? It's globalists and people, right.
And the wars that he wouldn't go to, he funded. So he's the kind of guy to abandon his troops and then go to Congress and fund the war so that, the people like Thomas who, replaced him could go there to die. That's what he was doing. He was going and funding the wars that he wasn't willing to go to himself.
They need corrupt globalists like Walz in there so they'll lie and cheat and whatever they can to get him elected. I mean, it's like, he's getting exposed as what he is. But I mean, people hate Trump, right? So they just go, Trump is bad. That's their turning out their base and try to smear Trump as a felon to the swing voters or whatever. That's their shtick, and maybe stuff some ballot boxes and maybe subvert democracy like Steve Simon, who we're going to hear about on the after show.
That's right.
Subverting democracy as the Eighth Circuit ruled in late 2020. Speaking of just like we were talking about the mask law that Walz, subverted. Steve Simon was doing the same thing. Well, the legislature made all kinds of laws about elections. But me as one man, Steve Simon, I'm going to decide that none of these laws that were created by and passed by the House and the Senate and the previous governor. No, as a Secretary of State, I'm just going to make the executive decision here that these duly elected legislators that 6 million people voted for don't matter. And I'm going to change all the rules right now. And the courts finally ruled late 2020, hey, this guy didn't have the authority to do that. So they'll find ways to cheat, break election laws, whatever they can do to try to get this globalist through, because the main thing is that he's corrupt and he'll do what he's told, and he's very clearly proven he's corrupt.
Cindy Lou says anything is possible at their convention. I just said in this thread, and I kind of agree with you guys. I don't think there's a chance here, or a very good chance at all. But it's not zero, right? But here's the deal: if they replace Tim Walz after announcing it, which I think is unprecedented, I can't think of an example where this has happened. Certainly not this quick. It would only be the fourth craziest thing that's happened this election cycle, right? Like, number one, you got to say is a assassination attempt on the president or on the former president. Number two has got to be 4 4 different criminal cases, 91 charges against Donald Trump. Number 3 is the incumbent president decides he's not going to run. Oh, yeah, he decided.
After the primary.
After the primary in
Right.
July, which, by the way, we predict on the show. So it would be after those 3 things. And by the way, it's August 8th. It's August 8th. Oh, my God. We got months left to go.
Well,
what the hell's going to happen?
Based MN says, why did politics get so fake, or when did politics get so fake and gay? Which reminds me, I have another story for the after show. So,
Oh, my
you're not
God.
a subscriber now. You're going to want to subscribe. You have to add that to the after show agenda. My comments regarding when did politics get so fake and gay.
Okay, so we've got a lot for the after show, and we are at an hour, so let's go into it. So if you're not a member, I would love for you to join us. It really helps our show. We got lots of big things going on. We're going to be releasing our news van pretty quick. Dawson, you're putting a lot of work in that news van.
Pretty quick. I would curb your expectations just a little bit.
Quickish. Let's do quickish.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're saying it won't be ready to run up to District 10A on Tuesday night?
No, definitely not that quick.
All right.
Quickish, yes. But we have a news, not even a news van, a news truck. I mean, it's a truck. Why do
We're
they call it a
working on
van?
it. It's turning out really cool. I'm excited to show
It's
it off.
awesome. It's pretty badass. So lots of big things that we got going on here, exposing stuff. So anyhow, please join us. It helps us out. $8 a month or $88. You get a month off, basically, if you do an annual subscription. Go Rumble, click on join. That sends you to locals. And it's our new social media. It's really awesome. You'll get used to it after a while, and that's where we do our post show. So for everyone else, we'll see you on Tuesday. Take care and hope to see you in the post show. Take care.